Hi, Ken. Well, it's 9:30, so let's go ahead and start here. Welcome to what I'm going to consider the first Chamber of Commerce informational series. I am pleased to have Carly Jensen from the Heritage Bank here locally joining us, and we thought this was going to be a good time for us to start talking about the SBA loans since Congress has passed some additional funding. So why don't we do, this is being recorded so we can pass this on to the general public, but as members, you've been invited to this exclusively. And it looks like we have a few people joining us. So let's just start with Carly. Can you just introduce yourself, and we will open for any questions, but let's have Carly just introduce herself and then go into a little bit of the information you can provide us, Carly, about the SBA funding and what to expect.
Yes, good morning. I'm Carly. I've been with Heritage Bank for almost 7 years. Currently the branch manager. The SBA lending has been a whirlwind, to say the least, but I have seen a lot of businesses get funded, and the initial wave was definitely day by day, but hopefully the House will pass some additional funding, hopefully this Thursday. We don't know what the funding start date would be. Hopefully Thursday night, Friday, projecting about 250 billion, maybe 300 billion. But the biggest thing that's standing out right now is that 60 billion, projecting 60 billion is going to be set aside for the smaller banks, small businesses, specifically for the Paycheck Protection Program, and the Economic Injury Disaster Loan, or EIDL. So that's very important and good news for us. But I will say we're projecting it to go just as fast as the last time. So, I mean, just right off the bat, I think if businesses are looking for funding, they need to meet with their banker as soon as possible.
And that's one of the questions that I'll come back with you, Carly, is, so you've already been meeting with some of the applicants from the previous round, right, to get them ready, is that right?
That's correct, yeah. Anybody who didn't get funded on the first round, we just revamped up their application, and those ones pretty much we have our fingers on the button ready to submit. So those ones are already ready to go. And I've already had, other customers come in. We've got their applications in the works. We're currently still taking applications. So yeah, they're all in the works, ready to go.
So I think an important message for those that are on this Zoom meeting is, if you have a relationship with a local bank and you have not started the process of making sure your application is in queue for this next round, we would recommend that you get in there and have a conversation with them to make sure, just as Heritage Bank is, that they're ready to push that go button for you. So it's really important about the relationship right at this point in time.
Yes. Yep. Yeah, I would say if you have an existing relationship with a bank and you can consider them your primary bank, definitely sit down with them, and don't be afraid to be pushy or feel like you're being a nuisance. You're not. That's what we're here for, and to help and to, be an advocate. So I would say, if you haven't already, definitely sit down, make an appointment with your personal banker.
There's a question on the chat, Carly, and Christine, if you want to unmute yourself, but I'll ask the question, but I don't know who you are, so let's introduce yourself. But her question was, what if banks are not taking applications?
So that's a good question. All banks have their own processes right now, especially as we're getting new guidelines from the SBA every day. But I would say ask. More than likely, they might have it posted on their website, you know, that they're not accepting applications. That's just because the SBA isn't taking applications right now. There's no funding. Hopefully banks are preparing applications before they're actually able to submit them. If not, I would recommend going to another institution and just start calling around. It doesn't hurt to apply at more than one financial institution.
So Carly, because you were so gracious to join us today, I did hear you earlier, Heritage Bank is taking applications, and is that for current clients, or are you taking new clients?
We are, that's a really good question. We are accepting applications from our existing customers right now. We are working with non-customers on preparing applications in the circumstance that we can push through more non-customers. So I would say if you want to start an application, don't hesitate to give me a call. I'm happy to get that going. I don't know, we are going to open our application process submitting to the SBA with initially with existing customers, and then opening that door for non-customers. But please don't hesitate to give me a call, because I will definitely work up an application. If your application packet is complete, accurate, ready to go beforehand, you're going to have better chances of getting it in when that door opens.
So an additional question to that, if they already have an application that was already processed in the first round, when you say that they're preparing for this second round, are they re-establishing that application, or are they just using the existing information and getting it ready?
So I would circle back around, ask the banker that you're working with what the status is on your application. Since the first wave and now, there has been slight updates with the SBA. I know that just specific to Heritage Bank, we redid our application packet just a little bit and included a couple additional addendums. So more than likely, your initial original packet or application, should be okay to still submit, but definitely check with your banker and make sure of that. And also, I would just touch base with your banker just to, make sure that you're still in line. All the banks obviously have different processes, but I know that at Heritage Bank, if we already had somebody apply in the first round, they're going to be first ones through the door this round. I hope that answers that question a little bit.
Does anybody have an additional question? Well, for those that just joined us, Carly is with Heritage Bank here in Ellensburg. She's the branch manager, and she was just giving some cues that when this approval goes through, hopefully on Thursday, that the first recommendation is to have that conversation with your current bank. Make sure your application is in queue and ready to go. It's all about that relationship with your bank, your institute right now. So if you haven't done that, we recommend that you do that sooner than later. The other thing that the Chamber of Commerce also wants to just state is if Carly also mentioned that it's okay to have multiple institutes that you're working with. So if you feel like you'll get a better, let's just say, and I'm going to call this out, and it might be a bad word for some, but if you have a national bank that you're working with that's a much larger national bank, and you've processed it in the first round, but you feel like that didn't get any service, it doesn't hurt to try to come to a local bank or a community bank to see if you can process that application. Am I right, Carly? Yes,
Yes, absolutely. And I actually had a a customer of ours who did that. They have 2 relationships at different banks, and they applied with both. And the first institution, unfortunately, wasn't us. The other bank got it through and got it approved first, and the SBA will know that and get that notification, and the SBA won't fund that business accidentally on twice, if that makes sense. So it's first come, first serve is literally what it is. And if you can apply at, say, 2 institutions, whichever one can get it in the bucket first, you know, you'll get funded through that one. So I hope that answers that.
The other thing that we also learned, and again, thank you, Carly, for being here from Heritage Bank, for members, that if you feel like you just are kind of at a dire need, there are some SBA lenders that aren't looking for the relationship, but still are able to compile the application. And that's the online SBA approved lenders. So one that we know of that has been very successful is Kabbage. That's with a K. So KABBAGE.com. I'm testing my spelling early in the morning. Now remember, these are SBA lenders that don't have the traditional relationship. It's just an online opportunity. So if you feel like you need to take that to that level, there are some SBA lenders that are online. Well, we knew this was going to be about a 30 minutes, so we're about 15 minutes into this. Is there any questions that anybody has in regards to SBA loans? You're an easy group today.
Hi, Amy. And this is Nicole Ahola. I do have a question for Carly that I was thinking about. So you had said there been some changes, some amendments or addendums to the application. So I'm a business owner as well, small business with 4 employees. So I got my application in, the funds ran out prior to the application being approved. My lender did say that, hey, you're in the queue. We're going to continue processing them in the event that there's more funds available. But now I'm going to call them as soon as I get off with the phone, off this call, because my concern is that the application changed and they're going to say, okay, now more information is needed, or you need to refill out everything. Is that kind of what you're saying, that since the application's changed, people that are in the queue do need to refill it out?
So that's a great question, and thank you for catching me on that. So to clarify, the application that you submitted is fine. It is complete. It will be accurate. Some banks have updated their own packets to streamline the process a little bit better, because the first wave honestly was uncharted waters. So now we have a little bit of experience, and we've just specific to Heritage Bank, we updated our application packet just to include one additional addendum, which would be if the loan were to get approved, you know, the direct deposit account, ownership, signers, just so there's one less step going back to the customer. So that's just what I mean. There might be additional addendums. So it wouldn't hurt just to touch base with your personal banker and say, do you need anything else from me? I want to make sure that I'm still in line where I was before. And just so you touch base with them, and if there were any additional questions, maybe just ask them, you know, what's the process if I were to get approved? And then that will just open that door to, well, we're going to direct deposit it or issue a cashier's check or whatever it might be. And then those questions are already answered. So that's all I meant by that. Some of the things that we kept running into, just really simple, tiny things where on the SBA application, customers were missing certain questions or answering them incorrectly. So we just went back and just switched things around a little bit just to make it more user friendly. But no, what you had submitted, you should still be in line where you were, should still be accurate to go through. But again, I would just call and double check that with your banker.
I appreciate that. Thank you. I will. And then Amy, you had said they're going to vote on this Thursday, so we'll know if if additional funds will be available this Thursday or tomorrow.
That's what I understand. That's what you understand too, Carly, right?
Yeah, I think it has to, we're hopeful, crossing our fingers, that the House will pass it this Thursday. Based off of that is when they would come out with a funding start date.
Mhm.
And, you know, there's so many what ifs, but
Sure.
we're hopeful and projecting that a start date of funding would be Thursday or Friday. Yeah.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
So Carly, just while people are kind of taking this in, and if you have questions, please let us know. But just to continue the conversation a little bit, you did mention in your introduction that you have been successful. Are you able to let us know approximately how many businesses were successful through Heritage Bank?
That's a really good question. I tried to pull some numbers before the call, and I don't have a number right now, but so it was a little hard to track, because when the funding first came out, I think it was Thursday, Wells Fargo opened their application process Friday, and they were closed by Monday, and of the week before when it first started. And Heritage Bank opened their application process that Monday and was closed by Wednesday, but then we slightly reopened just to kind of collect any last minute applications. And so it was kind of hard to keep track of it all, to be honest. And then the support from and communication from the SBA on the actual documents came, that there was a little bit of a lag. So honestly, we still have a couple of people getting funded right now from the first wave. So I might be able to give you some better numbers a little bit later today.
No problem. I'm going to leave this open for any other discussion. Does anybody have any questions for Carly?
I do. This is Nicole Ahola again. And Carly, you may not be able to answer this, but I was talking with another business owner. So I'm a health insurance broker. So I have about a little over 100 clients of my own. So just in communication with them about all things health insurance. But when I'm talking with them, I'm asking them about their success with PPP or what their experience was. And one business owner said they got their funding reserved. So they're just awaiting that. And this is a small business, but we're talking and I'm just curious how companies that had over 500 employees were able to get the funding. Is that, I mean, I'm just hearing that in the news, and I'm just not understanding that.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, how that could happen. Because of franchises?
To be honest with you, Nicole, I am not sure. I have the same response you do. I was a little in awe. Just Heritage Bank, we're a little bit smaller community bank. I didn't have an application that went through with that many employees, so I'm a little unaware of those circumstances.
Thank you.
Yeah, sorry. I had the same response you did. Questions.
Well, Carly, thanks again for being on this call. I knew it was going to be short, but I hope it was helpful for those that maybe just had some questions of what do they do? Do they reapply? How does this work? So again, just to summarize, if you already have an application in, it's always good to just touch base with your financial institute to see where they're at, what they're doing, or if they've made any changes. Additionally, it doesn't hurt to have multiple going on instead of just one. And so definitely keep in touch with your relationship of bankers. If you choose to go online, there are some choices of SBA lenders that you can do if you want to do a non-traditional funding source. So thank you again, Carly, for joining us.
Yes, thank you, Amy.
I have gotten a couple questions over on the chat about some additional funding. So we're just going to take the last 10 minutes real quick. If you haven't been following the Chamber's website, we are updating this on a regular basis. It feels like we're updating it 3 or 4 times a day. But we do have some of the links that are available for some additional funding sources. Currently, if you were not on the call yesterday at noon with Commissioner Brett Waxsmith, the Working Washington, I should know who's moving forward in the process on Friday. So those businesses will know if they are in the funding process or if they're not. I do know that there is some funding through the CARES Act that is coming to the state of Washington. So I myself have been on several phone calls trying to see how that trickles down to rural communities and if there's going to be any additional funding. And it sounds like they are very cognizant of the rural communities, and so they're trying to get some of that funding flushed through to this area. So I'm on it, but there isn't any details yet, but it does sound like there could be some additional funding coming through. I know if you are a business in Cle Elum on their First Avenue or in their geographic area, the Cle Elum Downtown Association has released some funding. So you would want to go to their website, but we have a link on ours. So if you go to our chamber website under loans and grants, there should be a quick link there. We're trying to list anything and everything that we find. There's some USDA grants that are there for agriculture. So just keep going to our website and we'll try to let you know of any funding that's released. Lastly, we are working with the city of Ellensburg and the county to talk with the governor. There's some local funds that are just sitting there not being used, and so they're asking for flexibility from the governor to allow us to use some of that funding. And that would be funding from lodging tax and possibly what's called the .09 funds. So those are local funding sources through tax-based sources that do have some significant reserve funding. So we are asking for flexibility from the governor, but we have not heard back from him yet. Any questions on that? We have a few minutes. We could end early, but if you have any questions or if you need some assistance on anything, this is a good time for just some Q&A.
Hey, Amy, this is Carly. I just wanted to throw one last thing in on the PPP. After this wave of funding, hopefully, anyone who got through with funding on the first round or is prepared to get funding on this round, I mean, there's going to be more steps. I mean, this is going to be a process. Once you get funded, it's not, you know, the end of the wheel there. And so everyone just needs to be prepared for the next step of tracking the funds, using the funds, and then being prepared for guidelines from the SBA on the forgiveness side of things, which banks are still waiting on those guidelines. So I'm not prepared for a lot of questions on that, but just know that just to maybe think about it, talk to your personal banker on what they're expecting in return for spreadsheets, proof of payroll and things like that. So
wonderful. Thank you for that additional information. Lastly, the Chamber of Commerce is going into partnership with WSU. We're providing a program that's called SBDC. That acronym stands for Small Business Development Center. We will be opening a business development center up in Cle Elum, and the purpose of this agent is to do one-on-one counseling with small businesses to help them through the long period of process of coming out of this in a recovery sense. So you should be seeing more and more of that information coming out. In fact, I'd like to invite you. We will have another meeting, Zoom meeting tomorrow at 3 o'clock, which we have two representatives from SBDC that will be talking about their services and some different options and resources that you can make yourself aware of now, and then prepare for the long-term recovery options. So please join us. We'll be sending that out. We are recording this, so this is for members at the first point of time, and then we will be releasing this to our social media platforms at a later time. So you will be invited to some exclusive meetings firsthand as chamber members. Any questions before we sign off for this morning? Seeing none, I really appreciate you guys making it on today's phone call. Join us tomorrow at 3 o'clock. We'll send that information. Gemma, the membership coordinator, is on, and oh, there she is. So she'll be sending that out to you just like we did with the others. And look forward to more. Check out our website. We're changing it ever so often. But stay healthy, stay home, and we'll talk to you soon. Thank you.
Thank you.